Okay, we're now going to take questions from the floor, starting with Taylor's question. I already answered it, but let's hear it again. It's good.
I was confused about Madam, let's start with the P, can I say it?
Madam P.
Yeah. I just don't really understand her part. I mean, like,
Okay.
She just comes out of nowhere, and then the major's writing a letter to her. I think it was her, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, this is the other story.
Did witchcraft, so.
Because I was focused on the nose, because I was like, what is this?
Okay, that's an excellent question. Who else has got questions? Lay?
Overall, it makes me think that at the end of it all, it was just one huge dream. And that's what I'm getting anyway. I don't know.
I got more. Sorry.
Okay.
Because he could not get this nose back on when he finally did get it back, even through surgery.
Okay, and we'll take more from you, Taylor. Yes, Jack.
How did the nose go from getting thrown in a river to walking around dressed up in a cage?
How did the nose get the clothes?
That fit him so perfectly.
I mean, I think that gets it. Yeah, Elena, and then Jackson.
What happened to the barber when he's like confronted with the policeman? It just leaves you.
Well, I think you mentioned in the book that he was caught by the coach. Trying to flee the country.
No, that's the nose.
Oh, the nose.
The nose. The nose had a diplomatic passport and was caught in a stagecoach trying to sneak out past the border, and the border guards brought the nose back
Okay. So
on the
that's
bridge. That's a good one, Jackson.
How is this not just surreal to everyone else in the story?
Pardon?
How is it not just a surreal event to everyone in the story?
How is this not?
Like any good Russians, they were all
That's a good question.
In Soviet Russia, noses walk you.
But this isn't Soviet Russia. Go ahead. Your name is Jason, right?
Jeremy.
It's Jason now. Go ahead.
I still know is when the nose was walking around in the clothes and doing stuff, was it still normal nose sized or had it grown?
Had it grown? It's a big nose?
It seemed like it got bigger.
That's what she said.
You know what they say about long noses?
I was never my whole body except instead of eyes.
That's not.
That's a good question.
It's not.
More question. Yeah, Holly.
The next day when he wakes up with his nose back and he goes to like get shaved, does the barber remember any of what's happened or?
I won't write that down because that's easy. No. Like any good Russian barber, Ivan Yakovlevich is a terrible drunk. And actually, I can answer Lay's question number 2. Make up more questions, by the way. Really quickly, was it all a dream? How many of you have ever had a dream in which you are flying? That means you're going to die. How many of you have ever had a dream in which your teeth are all loose and like falling out? That means you have severe mental illness. I know because I have that one all the time. How many of you dream that you walk into a big lecture hall, which is usually a law school or medical school? You have to give a 2-hour lecture on 3 lines of notes. I get that one all the time to this day. I also dream I'm back in graduate school. The Russian word for nose is nos. Repeat after me, nos. Now repeat it in a Russian accent.
No.
The Russian word for a dream is son.
Son.
Repeat after me in Russian, son.
Son.
You notice anything? The nose is a dream spelled backwards. Or a dream is your nose spelled backwards. Is Gogol capable of putting hints like this? Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
So if it was a dream, then how did the barber find the noses of bread? Like, was
That
there
first
barber?
part kind of doesn't go with the dream sequence.
Watch this, you future teachers. Good question. The answer is actually, I don't know.
That's
To
okay.
me, the most fascinating, and you bring up a good question, the most fascinating character in the whole Nose by Gogol, as in his other stories, is Gogol himself, okay? One would think that as the narrator of the novel, as the guy who actually wrote the dang thing, as the guy who had the weird idea, hey, let's say that this nose just gets loose from this guy's face, grows or doesn't grow, starts dressing up in the uniform of a state counselor deluxe or an associate provost or something like that, and starts wandering around praying very, that was,
I feel for the nose.
no, some administrative dude just walked by while I was saying associate provost, but I'm going to own it. Look, he should know what's going to go on next, right? Do you know the story about the batter who was standing at home plate? The count is 3-2. 2 outs, bottom of the 9th. The whole series is riding on this. And the pitch comes in, the batter takes it, and the batter says, "What was it, ump? What was it?" And the umpire says, "It ain't anything until I say it is." You think that an author would have that kind of control over what he or she is writing? I'm here to tell you, as somebody who has written some exquisitely horrible fiction, sometimes characters just take on a life of their own. Pardon?
Yes.
Sometimes the author even admits it. So like, man, yeah, go ahead.
Did you write anything else? I just feel like this is something so bizarre.
Yes. He wrote, the first novel of Gogol I ever read was, short story of Gogol I ever read was Diary of a Madman. Diary of a Madman is literally the diary of this dude who is a clerk in a great big huge soulless bureaucratic St. Petersburg office, who becomes fixated on this girl who is the daughter of the office manager and he wants to date, and pretty soon he's cultivating sources inside the house, like this poodle named Fifi, who comes and reports to him on what's going on in the house. And eventually he discovers, quite by accident, that he is the king of Spain. Don't look so surprised. Every chicken has a Spain right on the bottom. And then he spends the rest of his life in the Laughing Academy. Then there's a story called The Overcoat. The Overcoat is about this poor, humble clerk, you see a theme here, who buys an overcoat and he gets it stolen away from him and he dies of exposure. And horrible things start happening to the people who stole his overcoat.
As they should.
As well it should. He was a pretty warped dude.
Kind of Kafkaesque.
Pardon?
Kind of Kafkaesque.
Except for,
Yeah.
okay. Other questions to add to the list. I've answered number 2 and number 6. Taylor, you got some more?
Well, a lot of the questions they said, they pretty much said it. The one that's kind of driving me nuts is like when the major, he goes into the church and prays or something like that, or he's going to, am I correct? And he sees a nose. I want to know how he sees the nose when the nose is like this small. I mean,
But we don't know that he's that small.
We don't know the size of him.
Not to give anything away, but in Kurt Vonnegut Jr.'s novel Breakfast of Champions, how many of you have started looking at that? And it weirded Camille out so much that she read it and she never came back. What does he like? What length does Vonnegut like to talk about in that fine book? Bethany? You can go ahead and say it.
It's been a little while since I read the book, so like, how do you say that nicely?
Penis. Penis size. Vonnegut will report the penis size of just about every male character in the book. Why he does this, I don't know, but he says that his own is like about 2 inches long and about 7 inches in circumference, which is just about a record. Or somebody talks to somebody else on the phone. He was talking with, Jimmy Dolmanti, who is the, Vietnam veteran in the area, whose penis was something like 369 million miles long, but all but 12 inches of it was in another dimension. It's in there. It's just bizarre. We don't know how long the nose is. It might be a great big tall nose. It might be a little bitty tiny small little itty bitty nose. And the guy who you think would help us, the guy who you think would be able to say, I wrote this story, the nose was 4 feet 1 inches tall, says he doesn't know either. Don't you just love it when that happens? What is your major again? Okay, and that's in the College of Business, right? Where if you make $10 profit on a $100 investment, that's a 10% return any way you cut it, right? Here, the nose falls off and shows up in a loaf of bread. Ivan Yakovlevich tries to throw it into the river and gets caught. The author says he doesn't know what happens next, but the next thing we know, the nose is traipsing down the main drag of the capital city wearing... And what?
Is it a uniform? He's like a higher rank.
He's in a very high-ranking uniform.
Which is weird, because he's higher rank than his owner.
Sam?
I can accept this all. I like the idea of a 4'1" nose running down the street.
You're strange, though.
Well, no, I mean, I think this is part of the deal, folks. Everybody is strange. Somebody asked the brilliant question, who wanted to know, how is this not surreal to all of the other people in Russia? Who was that who asked that brilliant question? Jackson? That is just brilliant. How is this not surreal? Okay? As I was driving home last night from the fitness center, they had all Glenstone blocked off, it seemed like. I could see a magnificent plume of smoke raising to the sky. I thought for a second, I hope somebody's house isn't burning down. And then I thought to myself, my house is in that direction. I hope my house is not burning down. And then I thought, I just want to go home, let my dogs out, drink about a quart of club soda in one gulp, and watch the Blues get killed at hockey, which they in fact did do. My point being, that was could well have been somebody's tragedy. It was a brick factory. Glenstone brick. But you just become dulled to the sufferings of others, I think. I don't know about the weirdness of others, but you read about, Jessica Simpson is like in her 15th month of pregnancy.
Trying to give birth.
Rumors and lies, okay? You can dismiss anything as rumors and lies. And what did she name it, like Toto?
No, like it's
Maxwell.
a girl named Maxwell.
I think that's kind of cute too. Of course, my sister's nickname is Max, and she would come down here and kill me if I said anything but, especially since I gave her that nickname. But you think of all the weird crap you see out there, think of all the stuff that whizzes by you on your Facebook page. Little dogs who are going to be killed if you don't adopt them. I mean, I just delete at sight the profile of anybody who posts that crap to because it kills me. I can't take that. Starving kids, I mean, you just kind of desensitize yourself to that stuff maybe. I don't know. Let's see, what other questions do we have up there? Role of Madame PatoChena. Okay, I already explained this to Taylor once and everything, but if she shows up on a test, you might want to put down that she is a wealthy military widow with a daughter. And it's very, very sad to say this, but in the days of the Russian Empire, women of the upper class existed to look pretty and bear children. Women of the lower class existed to do most of the work and bear children. Because Madame PatoChena only has a daughter, she has not done her duty as a mother if her daughter has not done her duty as a woman, which begins with getting married. Madame PatoChena is not very smart, which makes her a very keen match for Major Kovalyov, who is a freaking idiot. She wants to marry her daughter off to the semi-nice looking major so that she will have completed her duty as a mother to the daughter she has brought into the world, and marry him off to Major Kovalyov, dump all the money on her daughter, and live with them and play with the grandkids and do all of that stuff. Again, that is about as good as it got for a upper class woman in the Russian Empire, sad to say. How is that for an answer? Okay, yeah, what's your question, Dylan? You were foofing with your hair, weren't you, Dylan? Now you got to ask me a question, but I'll give you a couple seconds to think about it. Go ahead, Devon.
Does the major even learn anything?
Let's take a poll. The major learn anything? Raise your hand if you think he did. Okay, what do you think he learned? It takes guts to be the only person in class raising your hand. Your name is what?
Chris.
Still.
I don't know like exactly what. I just know that they said like afterwards he like lived the rest of his life. Like I guess it seemed like he was more happy and he somewhat. Didn't they say like he spent the rest of his days kind of like more. Like
no, I remember very vividly what you're saying, and I have to say you are absolutely right. Let's give him a hand. That's for Chris, because that's why I read this stuff with you people. He goes out and he goes on a shopping spree.
He kind of felt like he appreciated the fact that he had a nose, and like he just like appreciated the fact that he is a normal person again, I guess.
Yeah, and he celebrated by buying things and yelling out to his buddies and telling himself that maybe I will marry that rich girl, but not for another 5 years or so. So maybe he did get a little bit of carpe diem.
Is it kind of like cherish what you have right now?
Yeah, except for I just am really, the guy's a clod, okay? I mean, the gospel according to Kim Kardashian. Or how would you like to read Lindsay Lohan's plan to save the earth from global warming? The guy's adult. I think he did learn to appreciate life a little bit more, but look at the sort of stuff he does with his newly appreciated life. I like your point. I give you an A+ for it, but
He's still not a great guy.
no, he's still a turd.
So that's really about it. Just a little bit happier.
Well, how many of you have ever seen the award-winning movie, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I'll spare you the long plot synopsis, but basically it's one big, huge, honking catabasis. Okay? George Clooney is very charming in this fine movie. Holly Hunter is very charming in this movie, too. You told the kids I got hit by a train. Well, lots of respectable people get hit by trains. I just love that. But what does George Clooney's character, after all the singing and all the dancing and all the laughs and all the heart-rending sorrow, what in the heck does Everett learn in the whole dang movie? He learns nothing. He learns nothing. Oh, I know I have a date to watch Ferris Bueller. My point is, I don't think he learns a dang thing. Let me give you an example. He walks in Major Kovalyov chases the nose into Kazan Cathedral, otherwise known possibly on the test as the Cathedral of Our Lady of Kazan. See, when you're a czar and you win a battle, you can build a great big, huge, honking, beautiful cathedral to whatever saint you think won the battle. You can spend money on it that you might have maybe considered spending on, like, people.
Crazy.
I know, that's not very czar-like. Which was part of why in 1917 there were a couple of revolutions. Not that the Bolsheviks who wound up in power had anything better to offer. Actually, they found something worse. But compared to the czars, you know, they looked like they were worth taking a chance on. When Major Kovalyov follows the nose into the Cathedral of Our Lady of Kazan, you can look at the text, I don't mind. What's the first thing he sees? Is it the nose? The beggar women. Thank you. Who said that? Devon? Okay. Who's looking at their text and can tell me a little bit about the beggar women? How are they dressed? Yeah, go ahead.
It said something about slits for eyes.
Slits for eyes. Okay. Everything else is covered. Why? Why? Sometimes you just got to approach this crap like a 4-year-old. Jeremy, otherwise known as Jason, why are they all covered up? Why are they begging outside a church? Oh, great flying Fluffy. They're lepers. They have leprosy. Leprosy is a disease. Well, no. Let's see what you know about leprosy. And what? What's that? And then followed by? Precisely. It's very unsightly. People who have leprosy are considered unclean, and to be perfectly honest, it's really not too smart to start getting all huggy with people who have leprosy, okay?
Lepers need hugs too.
And they do, but even more than that, they need treatment, and they need not to feel like pariahs. They need to realize that their afflictions were not something sent down on them by God for being inferior people. Where did that come from? But it's all true, by the way. But the reason why they're wearing these shapeless things with slits for eyes is they have leprosy. Why do you think they're covering their head? You deep-thinking college students of the 21st century.
Is it because they have no nose?
You don't know, Sam, but you make a very good point. He elbows his way and brushes his way and fights his way past the beggar women who have leprosy, not even knowing that he is literally no better and no worse than they are. He doesn't care. He hasn't learned anything. And when he starts talking to the nose, what does the nose say in response? Excuse me, but you are, you're my, you know what I mean. Is the nose pleasant to him?
No.
The nose is very rude to Major Kovalyov. And all he can think about as he dashes out after the nose was praying with an air of great piety, by the way. Must have been genuflecting and kneeling and mumbling and folding his. No, don't be disgusting, please. this is a mini catabasis that Major Kovalyov goes on. A wiser person might have thought, look at these women all wearing rags with their heads covered. They have no noses either. Maybe I should be nice to them or give them a little money or something or other. No, get out of my way, you subhumans. I have a nose to track down and catch. He goes to the police. Can the police help him? Why not? Pardon? Well, kind of, but I mean, not when he asks them to. So he decides he's going to do what? When they tell him the chief of police just left.
Is that when he goes to the papers?
That's probably my favorite scene in the whole thing. He goes into a dark room where there's a guy behind a desk, and it's hot because there's 9 million people in there. Okay, liminal experience, wisdom figure, you know, it's hot as hell. And if you're one of these people who believes that hell is other people, there's lots of other people. He reads a description of things that are in the newspaper. He reads about, you know, there's going to be a sale of used shoes. He reads there is going to be on sale some cattle. He reads that there's going to be on sale a slave girl who is 17 years old or something like that, useful as a cook and useful for other purposes. He gets a look at just how nasty life can be to people who are not born to the upper classes of Russia. And as a matter of fact, during Gogol's time, most people were born serfs. In the United States, in the 1830s, in order to qualify, I say that jokingly, as a slave, you had to be black or partially black. In Russia, everybody could be a slave. And you could rent your slaves out to other people to do work and live off of that. The greatest author ever produced by Russia, Alexander Sergeyevich Pushkin, lived off the rent of his slaves. Alexander Sergeyevich Pushkin was also the descendant of Peter the Great's Ethiopian slave. So, by rights, in the United States, Pushkin would be considered black. Go figure that out. Major Kovalyov is given a chance yet another chance to see just how nasty, brutish, and short everybody else's life is. Does he care? No. Absolutely not. John, your comment or question? Or are you foofing?
I didn't do anything.
No, are you foofing?
Sure.
Okay, because if you're not foofing, what's your question, by the way, Dylan?
I guess how just the nose is like oblivious to the fact that it is a nose. And then like when he says you're my nose, he always says no on that.
Thank you. I can just see that. You know, no, I'm a regular guy just like everybody. No, you're just a nose.
No, I'm not.
Hey, he's got to accept his nasality. Oh, you can leave that in there. I'm rather pleased with that.
If he believes that he's a state councilman, why would you believe you're a nose?
I've never been asked that question. Shame on you.
It's like he created his own, its own self. I'm going to assume it's a he.
Doesn't everybody create their own self though?
Oh, wow.
So he separated himself from slavery, being the person's nose, and became his own person.
Yeah.
And now he refuses to go back. That works.
Wouldn't you feel that way too?
Let's take a poll. If you were a nose and you just became aware one day you're, like honking out and sneezing and smelling things and stuff like, And then you start thinking, what if my body parts are all sentient? And I'm just kind of like blocking it out. My feet are saying, he's stepping on me again. Okay, you're a nose. And you find yourself walking the streets of St. Petersburg. I'm guessing that you don't bother feeling around for your arms because you're a nose and noses don't have arms.
You never know.
Has legs.
Maybe this is
Then
their
how do
arms.
you get into the cathedral? Are the doors open?
Maybe it just pushes way in. It is a nose.
These are all brilliant questions.
Or
It has
this way
legs
in.
and a sword. Why
So
have a
maybe-
sword if you can't use it?
You know, I could see myself putting as a test question,
Oh, we kicked the door open.
write a short letter from the nose to Major Kovalyov.
I'm game for it.
Write a short letter from the nose to Major Kovalyov.
Can it be a letter of resignation?
I would probably leave that open. I would encourage you to put yourself in the place of an ambulatory nose walking up and down the streets of St. Petersburg. You could tell Major Kovalyov, I have accepted my nasality. I think I have a lot to contribute to society as a nose. I can find myself a nice nosette. Or maybe you can agree to come back on certain terms. No snuff. Okay?
Wrap me up during the winter time.
Wrap me up during the winter time. Okay, unless it tastes good. You could write a letter from the nose explaining why, how it was you got to wear the fine uniform. I never really thought about putting myself in the place of the nose.
You're welcome.
I'm kind of disturbed, but I thank you very much. Major Kovalyov, the nose's catabasis, in which the nose finds out that he's not really a nose at all, but he's a semi-sentient male human being in the our uniform of a state counselor of the second class. Go ahead.
It's a sequel.
Huh?
Sequel.
The Alf. No, not a sequel. But I mean, you know, and he finds out that life as a nose is pretty dang tough in the big city. Maybe he just voluntarily... He tried to escape, didn't he? He tried to escape into Finland. Has anybody here ever been to Finland? Is
No.
anybody here Finnish?
I know somebody who is. She went to my school during the exchange program.
It's a great country.
So I gathered from her.
And then he came back and he somehow got reattached. What this story has to say about a lot of people is not very good. Major Kovalyov is a turd. Even after he, looks at the newspaper ad and finds out that he could, if he wanted to, buy an 18-year-old girl who is skilled at cooking and other things, does he say to himself, I lead an empty life. My only dream in life is to marry the ugly daughter of stupid, rich Madame PatoChena. What does that say about my existence? Does he say that?
No.
He says to the clerk, I want to place an ad. My nose is loose. And what does the clerk say? Go ahead.
Doesn't he say no, because he'll lose his credibility because someone before him was missing a dog or something?
Yeah, it's just really awesome. And he refers to the nose as Mr. Nosov. Mr. McNose. This nose fellow. And then there are the rumors about the nose being seen in public. Pretty soon the nose becomes a popular spectacle. The nose has been appearing in the window of Junker's department store. I've heard that the nose has been seen in the Telluride Gardens. I saw the nose drinking a pina colada at Trader Vic's.
But then she would have tried to marry the ugly daughter.
What's that?
And then she would have tried to marry the ugly daughter.
That would be great.
That really would have been great.
I
And they
think,
got her pregnant, and then you asked for the question?
No,
I
no.
like that.
no, we don't want to think about these things. That's just awful. It's just,
That really was awful. Even for you, Leigh, that was awful. What would happen if the nose got with Miss PatoChena and they had a baby?
That would be a very interesting child.
And then you could see on the back of the carriage. Really seriously, I mean,
I think those would have arms now, so that would be a fun now.
who knows? I mean, this is getting very silly. The letter that Major Kovalyov writes to Madame PatoChena is a textbook example of how people just can't communicate. What the Major is trying to say is, you are a witch, you have stolen my nose. And she responds, I never have encouraged any other suitors for my daughter. I would be quite happy to marry my daughter off to you tomorrow. When he goes to the doctor, when he gets the nose back, he goes to the doctor and asks the doctor to put it back on. And the doctor says, anyone?
It'll be worse.
It'll actually be worse. I could put it on, but it would be a lot worse. Ever go to the doctor and the doctor can't do anything for you? This is really great. That'll be $450. And what does a doctor offer to do, though, however? Who said that? That's right. Buy it. I'll buy that nose off of you. What a humanitarian. Even the doctors.
He sold his nose for his power.
he had to pawn his nose.
Look, in the previous Catabasis stories, starting with Gilgamesh, starting with the Odyssey, starting with or continuing through the Odyssey, and the Aeneid, and the Inferno, and the frogs, the authors, the poets, the writers have been just like turning up the creativity, amping up these pictures of hell, trying to do everything they can to introduce new horrors for hell, as if it were some kind of, shall we say, video game series. You know, play new hell, Dante's Inferno. There is a game called Dante's Inferno, isn't there?
We don't talk about that.
Well, I'm introducing Joe's Inferno. Okay, Joe's Inferno is the most horrible inferno because it has the most horrible monsters.
Dr. Phil.
Am I really that obvious and predictable? What could be worse than Dr. Phil? It could be...
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I'm unclear as to, and it's not that I disagree with you.
I wish you would.
Well, I think he's bizarre as well, but I don't think that you've ever really said what made you come to the conclusion that he is Satan.
Oh, I just don't really like how he preys on other people's low self-esteem to make money. I don't like how, you know, he holds himself, carries himself as if he's some sort of wisdom figure when he's clearly not. And I really resent that he's bald.
He makes you look bad.
And now you just made me feel bad.
Get going, fam.
Okay, but to get back to my earlier point, there reaches a you get to a saturation point where no more different kinds of explosions can be created. You can't, you know, figure out new and interesting ways to kill off bad guys. Trust me. You know, the exploding spleen that turns into nuts and bolts, and then, you know, My Little Pony and stuff like that. I mean, They ran out of inventive hells to describe. Moreover, by the 19th century, the 1800s, what were once taken as articles of religious faith, the universe was created by this guy named God. Up above is where God and his son Jesus and the Holy Spirit live. Down below is this place called hell, where bad people go and are punished. People are asking questions. People are wondering about that now. It's almost as if to tell a good catabasis story, you have to transfer the location of the catabasis from the underworld full of demons that Dante knew on a first-name basis, from the 53 greatest sinners of the afterlife as expressed by Virgil, to an even more frightening hell. The hell that lurks right outside your front door. I'm not trying to suggest that wherever you may exist or whatever is your personal hell, because it's not. But if you have ever been lost in the quote-unquote bad part of town, if you have ever been stuck in the hospital and can't get... If you've ever been stuck in an elevator, has anybody here ever been stuck in an elevator? That is some scary stuff, wasn't it? If ever you have been in a city where, I don't know what I'm doing here, it's a catabasis. And if properly done, it can be hell. War movies are all about hell. Starting with when they make the bright-eyed little farm kid into a killer soldier guy, and then he goes off and kills, and he comes back, and he can't rewind to what the soldier, the boy, the cute little farm boy that he used to be. The catabasis, the scene of the catabasis is right here outside the door, and the catabasis is a part of your life. I think that's what's so fascinating about the character of Gogol himself. It's as if Gogol is trying to come up with some way of accounting for the surreality he sees in everyday life in the big city, and he doesn't quite succeed. I think that Gogol is very much bothered by the idea that little old ladies with leprosy are congregating in the church hallway begging for handouts because the church won't give them any money. I think Gogol has a real problem with the notion that human beings can be sold as if they were shoes. I think Gogol has a real problem with the fact that when push comes to shove, the doctor does not want to help fix what ails you. The doctor wants to make money off of you and amuse himself at your plight. Gogol's lack of control over his story, the fact that Gogol writes himself into a corner by saying Ivan Yakovlevich is standing on the bridge across the Neva River at St. Isaac's Cathedral, and he's trying to drop the nose into the river, and the policeman stops him, and from there it becomes unclear. Gogol is trying to suggest the lack of control that we tend to feel over our lives. This urge of, I don't know what to do next. I don't even see what the point of doing anything next is. The only thing I know for sure is that I have to push forward and make the best of it however I can. I don't think Gogol has anything at all really to teach us, other than hell is right outside your door. However, to my mind, he's also important as a first person to really effectively take the classical theme of catabasis and transpose it into a modern urban setting. In our next exciting text, which will be our concluding text for the semester, we're not going to have time for anything else. And by Krecky, you are going to read Breakfast of Champions. We're going to find the author, Kurt Vonnegut, turned 50 years old, trying to make some sense out of his own life and out of existence in general. Nobody else in this room is 50 years old. With luck, you will all attain that advanced age at some point. He's going to describe himself as if he were climbing up a roof and had hit the midway point, which is a shout out towards Dante. The novel is going to be set in the mythical town of Midland City, which is in fact a thinly disguised version of Kurt Vonnegut's hometown of Indianapolis, Indiana. Breakfast of Champions, for those of you who are interested in stuff that might be on the test, is the story of two lonely old white men on a planet which was dying fast. The old men are named Dwayne Hoover and Kilgore Trout. There's also another lonely old white man on a planet that's dying fast named Kurt Vonnegut. The single coolest thing I have ever read on any page of anything is not the Norwegian hemorrhoid ointment page. Did I tell you about that? Maybe next time. Remember to ask me about the Norwegian hemorrhoid ointment. Is the page on which Kilgore Trout is just running for his life. He's just had his own catabasis, and he's just trying to get the hell out of there while he still has some shred of his sanity left, and he sees a guy smoking a cigarette standing next to a 1972 Plymouth Duster. It's Vonnegut himself, appearing as a character in his own novel. And he tries to tell Kilgore Trout, look, I created you. You're a character in a book that I'm writing right now. And Kilgore Trout thinks, oh my God, this is just getting crazier and crazier. Then a dog by the name of Kazak, who is very angry, he's a junkyard dog who was written out of a previous version of the story, attacks Kurt Vonnegut. He has to jump up in the air to get away from the dog's attack, and he successfully retracts his testicles into his groinal area. And now they tell him it's going to take surgery to bring them back out. It just gets weirder and weirder. But I think at the same time, it's going to be a lot more real to you because it's actually set in a time when your parents were alive. That's what I have for you today. I will see you on Thursday.